Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Church in Fall River, Mass.
Good morning, my friends.
Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning again. Jump that every time. I think I remember. I'm the Reverend Claire Donaldson. It is lovely to be back with you again. Happy New Year. I was here during Advent, and it's wonderful to be back. For those who don't know me, I am from Salem, Massachusetts. I'm a member at the First Church in Salem, Unitarian Universalist. So, let us get started. Come in from the wind. On this day, as with so many Sundays, we come in from the whirling world. The wind, the bright sun, the push and pull of tides and time, from the tumult of global news and global stories, the pain we hear of, the demands on our spirits, the do this now culture that we live in. We come into this sanctuary from that windstorm, the rush of speeding drivers on the roadways, the rustling silence that fills some of our homes, the vastness of a once busy and perhaps now quieter house. All of this can leave us feeling stirred and unsettled. When we give our attention to what's going on around and beyond us in this throbbing world, we can feel wind blown. We need places where we can come and find our grounding once again. Come in from the world and the world. May this be a place where we can experience genuine stillness, even just for a moment. May this be a place that we can count on as we turn into the driveway or park along the street, or as we turn on our computers and come seeking our congregational homepage. May we feel pulled into a restorative time of energetic peace, a community that generates a new zest in us for the dynamic beauty of this world. Come, let us worship together. And we will light our chalice. Jim has graciously agreed to do the hard work. At this hour, in small towns and big cities, in single rooms and ornate sanctuaries. Many of our sister Unitarian Universalist congregations are also lighting a flaming chalice. As we light our chalice today, let us remember that we are part of a great community of faith. May this dancing flame inspire us to fill our lives with the Unitarian Universalist ideals of love, justice, and truth. Please rise in body and spirit and join me in our first hymn in the great hymnal number 93, Mercy, Pity, Peace, and Love. Please join with me in Psalm 471, our affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service its prayer.
To dwell together in peace,
To seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity and fellowship. Souls. Thus to become each other and with God. Are there any announcements?
Kit is not here today, so pretend that I'm Kit. And I'm saying that, well, first, Claire, thank you for being with us
Oh,
today.
you're very welcome. Happy to be here.
And the next week will be Ann Fox. Ann Fox. And we have free lunch today. And the heat in the community room is not what it could be. And it's not freezing in there, but it's not as warm as it should be. So you might want to leave your jacket on and go in for our
Thank you, Richard.
So I just want to remind everyone that the week from tomorrow is Martin Luther King Day. I don't know if it's an annual, but for the last several years, we've hosted a potluck peace meal where folks from the church, as well as from our revolution, Greater Fall River, which meets here every second Thursday of each month, each bring various appetizers and desserts, main courses, etc. So many of you have already told me what you bring. If you haven't yet, please do today, so I know who's coming. Starts at 5:30. We also have to bring reflections of Martin Luther King and Fulton's memorable experience that was affected by Dr. King's presence. And interestingly, that Monday is also inauguration day, so I think it'll be an interesting juxtaposition of emotions. So please join us next Monday, week from tomorrow.
Yes, it's the national championship in college football.
That's right.
Three things.
That's an amazing trifecta.
Yes.
Any other announcements? Our reading today is from the book of Luke, chapter 10, verses 30 to 37. Jesus replied, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell into the hands of robbers, who stripped him, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. Now, by chance, a priest was going down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. So likewise, a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, while traveling, came near him, and when he saw him, he was moved with pity. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, having poured oil and wine on them. Then he put him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii, gave them to the innkeeper, and said, 'Take care of him, and when I come back, I will repay you whatever more you spend.' Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers?" And one of them replied, "The one who showed him mercy." And Jesus said to him, "Go and do likewise." Here ends the reading. Please join me in your great hymnal, for number 489, our responsive reading. I will read the regular print and you will read the italics. When love is felt or fear is known, when anniversaries arrive by calendar or consciousness, when lives are born or people die, mark the time. Let nothing living slip between the fingers of the mind. For all these holy things we will not, cannot find again. In our hectic days and our busy world, we sometimes forget to take time to slow down, to settle our heart, our mind, our soul. This is now a time for meditation and reflection. God of the broken, Allah of the wanderer, Yahweh who is without shelter, surround those in deep need among us. Surround them and help us hear their cries for help. We are a people who long for the broken to be mended. We long for justice in the face of much corruption. We want to practice hospitality, but have legitimate fears. Surround us in our trying times and help us to reach beyond ourselves. We confess we are bogged down by so much we need in the world. May we have the courage to stand for what is right, even when it offends, and the strength of your spirit to carry on. Let us be as you are in this world. Amen. Please now take a moment for peace and quiet and think about those things or events that are in your heart. Eyes and body and our spirit, and join me for our hymn in the great hymnal, number 281, O God, our help in ages past. walking toward trouble. Many years ago, there was a famous case in New York City about a woman who was attacked late one night. Many people heard her cries for help, but no one responded. Everyone thought someone else would call the police, so why bother? As a culture, we have learned to not get involved, to stay out of other people's problems. It's often easier to just keep going and walk on by. At some point, most of us have heard the poem by Martin Niemöller. First they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. Niemöller was a prominent German anti-Nazi theologian and Lutheran pastor. He was a submarine commander in World War I. He was anti-communist and initially supported the Nazis until the church was made subordinate to state authority. In 1934, he started the Pastors' Emergency League to defend the church. Hitler became angered by Niemöller's rebellious sermons and popularity and had him arrested on July 1st, 1937. He was tried the following year and sentenced to 7 months in prison and fined. After Niemöller's release, Hitler ordered him arrested again, and he spent the next 7 years in concentration camps in protective custody. He was liberated in 1945. About 10 years ago, when I was at General Assembly, the Ware lecture that year was given by Sister Simone Campbell. Other Ware lecture honorees have been Martin Luther King, civil rights activist Julian Bond, author and professor of religion Elaine Pagels, poet Mary Oliver, and singer, songwriter, activist Holly Neal. Sister Simone Campbell was the National Director of Network, a Catholic national social justice lobby. In 2012, she was instrumental in organizing the Nuns on the Bus tour of 9 states to oppose the Ryan budget approved by the House of Representatives. This budget would decimate programs meant to help people in need. Nuns on the Bus received an avalanche of attention across the nation from religious communities, elected officials, and the media. She led a second cross-country Nuns on the Bus trip in 2013, focused on comprehensive immigration reform. Sister Simone shared that in her life, she is walking towards trouble. When you dedicate your life to social justice, this is the path you take. She sees this as a sign of people of faith. There are many ways to follow this course. Well, on this path, Sister Simone says she is filled with holy faith and holy doubt. The doubt allows you to be disturbed by uncertainty and inequality. This opens one up to action, opens our heart toward the other, sharing our faith by showing our love. Dr. Simone spoke about Pope Francis, or Pope Frank as she calls him, since she's so happy with his many actions. One of his statements is, "Inequality is the source of all evil." I was thinking and pondering that statement that perhaps the concept was too expansive, too general. As I was working it around in my head, I tried to think of examples where this would not be true, but could come up with none. Poverty brings hunger, homelessness, and illness. Racism, sexism, homophobia, and all the other ias and isms bring poverty, poor working conditions, job loss, family loss, etc. Imbalance of power in corporations brings poor working conditions, unjust wages, or loss of jobs to expensive labor markets. We see every day what imbalance of power in government brings. Legislation held up by party division, budgets not passed, judges and ambassadors not confirmed or appointed. Pieces of pork, such as local construction projects, added into legislation that does not apply to the initial content, say in a military appropriations bill. I could go on with examples. However, I was stumped to come up with anything that did not apply. Any type of inequality leads to an evil of one sort or another. The story of the Good Samaritan is a well-known one. Someone who unexpectedly helps out with a project, an event, or a person in need is often called the Good Samaritan. How often do we hear of someone who has fallen on hard times, lost their job or home, been diagnosed with a life-threatening illness or some other horrific life event? Many of us are ready and willing to help someone we know, but think about the person who is facing significant tribulations and also have substance issues or mental health issues or any other contributing factor that we may not like or agree with. Can we honestly say we are ready to help as quickly, as much, or as often? If we have committed to walk toward trouble, we will. It is always easier to help those we know or who are like us. The Samaritan who took care of the man who was beaten by robbers reached out in love. When Jesus told this parable to his disciples, he ended by telling them, "Go out and do likewise." Another way of saying, go walk toward trouble. Later this month, we will be facing new or repeat challenges. We've been through this before. Some will be familiar, some new. As faithful, loving people, we may find some challenges devastating. Others will be just frustrating, and then others we can choose to not engage in. Choosing to walk into trouble may become overwhelming. We will need to be mindful about how much we can take on and how much we are juggling in the rest of our life. These will be important choices to make. 4 years may seem like an eternity, but as the saying goes, this too shall pass. Walking toward trouble is seldom easy. Not much in life is easy anyway. We all have very busy lives with commitments at work, kids at school, and other interests such as theater, sports, dancing, music. And each child is often involved in something different, so the family schedule can be more confusing than trying to read a train schedule. Then, of course, the dog wants a nice long walk, the laundry is piling up, and everyone is hungry. No one went to the grocery store. So where is the time to go walk? It doesn't have to be something big or frequent or expensive. Help serve a meal at a shelter. Clean out a closet and donate the clothes you don't wear. Drop off your newspapers at the animal shelter. Pick up some extra school supplies for kids in need. If you want to do more, train to be a volunteer with hospice, a big brother or big sister, or any of the multitude of excellent programs who need a hand. See if an agency you want to support needs some equipment or just general supplies, and go buy them. Walking toward trouble does not have to be a full-time job, but it can be if you want. All it needs to be is doing what you can, when you can, for someone who needs the help. Showing our faith, reaching out in love, brings light to the darkness, hope to the desperate, and joy to our lives. May it be so and blessed be. We will now accept our offering to continue the life, the work, and mission of this congregation. Are there any joys or concerns this morning?
So I have two concerns this morning. First of all, my mother. who everybody knows is 100 years old, and probably will be 101 in May. But she has a cold. And when you're 100 years old and you have a cold, every little sniffle scares you. She's okay, she's seen her doctor, she's gotten medication, she's at home, but she's had it since before Christmas, so I'm just keeping her, call her all the time, visit when I can, keeping her all the time. The other concern is, you also know my sister died in November, and her wife, Gail, last week, went to the hospital, and went to the emergency room, now she's in the hospital, with blood clots, which she's had over the years several times, but they've returned because she stopped taking her medication. And they've also discovered that this is so depressing, sorry about this, but they've also discovered that she has 2 fast-growing tumors in her brain. So she's in the hospital, we don't know what the possible treatments might be. They did a biopsy, but we won't have the results for a few days. So her only family really is in New Jersey, it's her niece, and she's very close, the two of them are very, very close, but Brooke is a long way away, so the family that Gail has now is my family. Me and my 2 sisters and my mother and brother. And she has a lot of friends in the area, but anyway, we're just moving into the unknown with Gail, and so we can pray, keep her in your prayers. This is gonna be hard.
Thank you.
I have a concern, it's about all the people that are suffering and passed away in California. It's devastating. I watched some unbelievable helicopters and fires, and I just hope God is able to give them a blessing and somehow protect them in some way. That whole West Coast is disappearing, and it's a shame that fire can do that. And I hope God is protecting them in every which way, and may we all have them in our prayers.
Good morning. I thought, what's it? Louder? This is louder? Okay, thank you. So, I'm going to talk about joy. Prior to the holidays, I mentioned that some of you were here. There was a young man that we know, a young man of 12, on the autism spectrum. And he wanted for his birthday, just prior to Christmas, a sump pump. And I happen to have had a sump pump in my basement. And on the day of his birthday, my wife went over, took the sump pump along, wrapped it up and so forth. And he was delighted. And after opening up the gift, he began to explain to my wife how a sump pump works. You know, with the little impeller, you got your motor, and he pointed out all these parts. This is where you have to put the pipe for the plumbing. Amazing that this young man has that kind of knowledge, and yet he struggles with autism. But he's a genius in my eyes. And I was glad to be able to give him something that he could focus on and be proud of. So good things do happen.
I have a concern and a joy. My concern is, as winter marches on, for all the people that are unhoused and cold at night and suffering, but cannot step into a shelter for whatever their own reason. My joy is I have a niece that just celebrated her 30th birthday. When she was 15, she started being plagued by anorexia and was in a couple of different eating disorder programs. Other mental health issues came to light strongly. She was in many places, many hospitals. She hurt herself on multiple occasions. There was a time 3 or 4 years ago, I didn't think she would see Christmas because she had tried to light herself on fire at Thanksgiving. Well, she did. And she turned 30, and she lives in her own apartment in Alston and has a full-time job working in a program for offenders soon to be released or just released. And she loves it. And she's happy. And this Christmas was the first Christmas with the family that she didn't make it all about her. And it was great. So thank you for listening. Please rise in body and or spirit and join me for our closing hymn, number 347 in the great hymnal, Gather the Spirit. And as we go forth this week, Go forth in simplicity. Find and walk the path that leads to compassion and wisdom, that leads to happiness, peace, and ease, that welcomes the stranger, and open your heart to a world in need of healing. Be courageous before the forces of hate. Hold and embody a vision of common good that serves the needs of all people. Amen.